Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Friday TGIF and Product Owner episode this week with Isshai Kamara. Hey Isshai, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Friday is Product Owner Day here on the podcast, of course, and we want to dive into what makes a great product owner. We'll do that in a minute, but we also want to understand those nasty little anti-patterns that we need to be ready for, and of course, have our tools and coaching lessons ready to help those product owners. So let's start with that, the anti-pattern. Share with us, Isshai, what might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
Okay. So what I would say is the worst, and I've seen it on at least two teams, is the product owner that has the technical background. They feel super immersed, obviously, with the development aspect. And so one of the things they tend to do is to point the stories or to lead, story pointing before the developers and testers can even get their estimation out. And, I found out through a retrospective, that how exactly our developers were feeling about it. And so one of the things I did was, of course, approach the POs in both instances that it happened. With different teams, I approached them and just let them know, that because it's up to the developers to decide, how exactly we should point it because they're doing the work, right? And so it's just best for them to just be supportive in terms of, providing any additional information, but not to sway the team to vote a certain way. Because it causes a lot of anxiety for the team sometimes, especially if you have junior developers and you have someone with 21 years of experience saying that this 8-pointer should be a 3-pointer, and it just doesn't work well. And so just having that, conversation with the product owner definitely does help. And just having to remind them too, if they decide to continue on with that and say, hey, well, let's hear from the developers, but just trying our best to make sure that, our developers and engineers are empowered during pointing.
And there's, of course, the other side of that is that it's not easy for us as Scrum Masters to go and talk to somebody with 20 plus years of experience. Maybe you shouldn't be pointing the stories.
Yes.
How did you do that? Because, of course, you have to have an approach that doesn't cause even worse conflict, right?
Right. Yeah. And so for me, one thing that I got from project management is this technique called referent power. Right. So usually, well, I'll say it in this regard. Usually when it comes to referent power, you're always referring to someone else, right? Someone that has a higher power over you and is leading like an influential change because of it. And so maybe depending if someone has that many years of experience, I might use that and say, hey, like our Center of Excellence has said, this is how we should conduct this exercise. And so I just want to make sure that we're following the guidelines there. Or, I'll just have a nice workshop, right? And just reference everything from the Scrum Guide, and other other organizations that, say, this is how we should do this, the best practice of how to do this. And just really making sure that we have that buy-in now from the team, that they understand, number one, where it comes from, and making sure that we can come to a place of agreeing, and really showing them it's hurting the team rather than helping the team. And once that's done, then it really helps the product owners to continue on in their role.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you said there is very important, that it is about helping the team. It's not about saying what you're doing is wrong. It is about helping the team. And right now it isn't helping. So let's find a different way, a way that would help the team. And I think that referring power, as you were discussing, the team is also that, right? Like, they don't feel comfortable. They feel they are not heard. They are demotivated. Like all of those things, if they are true, obviously, right? Let's not invent anything. But if they are true, they can become quite powerful arguments in that conversation.
Absolutely.
But those are the anti-patterns. Of course, there are also amazing, great product owners out there. So Isshai, share with us the best product owner you've ever worked with. How did they work?
I would say the best product owner that I've worked with, it's actually some of those that I've trained in the past on how to write user stories. But they just came into this role just really open and really dedicated. They always had the user stories on time. They were always available for all of the meetings and any additional calls, and very much invested. And I think it's great to work with a product owner that is invested and that works well with everyone on the team. And it really does make a difference. I know that a few of my developers, they just would always sing praises about my product owner, how much they loved him, how nice he was. He would just do little things like check in on everybody and just see how they were doing on a personal level, even, bring food in for us. So he was amazing. I definitely would say that.
And that's an important aspect, because sometimes the product owner will need to make difficult decisions and even say no to the team, and building that trust capital, right? Like, checking in, making sure that you're interested in how things are going, being present, being available to answer questions. These are all activities that build trust capital with the team. And then at some point, the product owner might need to make a tough decision, and the team will say, yeah, we trust you, so we'll go with it.
Right. That's true. That's a great point.
So that's what great product owners are all about. And that brings us to the end of our week together, Isshai. But before we go, do share with us, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
Okay. So you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is spelled Isshai. Last name's Kamara, Kamara. And you can also follow me on social media at IT Industry Tools.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely put the links to those on the show notes so that people can easily find Isshai on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Isshai, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast host, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. So join us at scrummasterpodcast.com and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more full week of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.